Hi, and welcome to this week 12 Writing on the Edge series with me, Dawn Bates, writer, author, coach, and boutique publisher. Now, you can see we have a different background today. I've lost all my wonderful books. Well, I haven't. They're all packed away in boxes at the moment. So I'm ready for the move. And it was a bit of an ugly background, and no one needs to see that. This week, getting back on track, we are looking at writing for change and the intersection of policy and advocacy. Now, those of you who are familiar with my work, you'll know that I've written a lot of books and they're all about social issues. And if you've seen the other videos, I'm all about social impact, not just writing a book for the sake of a title. So this week, what we're going to be looking at is actually building your credibility through your advocacy, but your advocacy through your credibility and how you need to build them both simultaneously. Last week, we looked at actually showing up and how people trust you and how you can give yourself credibility by just showing up as you. This week, we're going to be looking at clarity of your writing, the solutions you bring, and how you can actually make sure that everything that you're writing about has credence, which is credibility, really, but also gets you taken seriously. And how when you write for both the public and the policymakers, you can make even more of a difference. So let's get started. And the reason why this is coming to you recorded, instead of me going live, I know that some of you are watching it recorded anyway, is because tomorrow I'm getting all fancy and I'm going down to London. Not quite so fancy. I'm going on the bus, not the train. And I'm going to be traveling along the Thames with my fellow I also 100 most impressive female founders award winners of 2025. So I'm very much looking forward to that early morning. But that's why this is not a live session. And for those of you who wanted to discuss this with me, there will be an opportunity to discuss another opportunity. And you'll have to forgive me, I've had a 2-day migraine. So anyway, let's get cracking, shall we? Stop waffling, Dawn. Okay, so one of the biggest things is I know that there are so many areas of advocacy and policy change that needs to be made, whether that is, in human rights, in education, healthcare, climate change, animal welfare. There are so many areas in which we could cover. So I'm just going to be trying to cover as much as possible for all of the different industries. But so I've come up with some key takeaways for you to really get to grips with when you're writing. One is understand who your policymakers are within your industry and the industry that you're looking to tackle. Which area of law is it that you want to tackle? And find out who, whether it's your local, your national, or the international representatives of that, and understand the way in which they think. I mean, that might actually be a quite scary thought. But once you've identified the way that they think and the way that they operate, and you've understood in which the legal frameworks actually connect together, then you're able to look at the laws and the different areas of it that need to be addressed first, second, third, and fourth. And you can make a step-by-step plan. And when you look at these laws, one of the best things to do is actually look at how your lived experience or the expertise that you've gained in your industry or the impact that you have seen happening. You can then attach it to all the different laws and the clauses and the sections of the laws and any renewals or any amendments. And once you, and it will get really quite, you will go deep and you will probably get distracted. That's how the law is meant to be. Not even lawyers know what the law is until it comes to the time of practicing, because laws change so quickly. And they're just added on to one another, bolted on. And then a lot of the time, it just becomes so overwhelming. So make sure that you take care of yourself, please, before you really embark upon this. If, like me, you love going down those rabbit holes and you have more legal tabs than you know what to do with, love a bit of stationery, then you're going to, and you've got files and anyway, you're going to need a lot of time and you're going to need a lot of legal tabs and paper and notepaper and files and folders. Now, you can either do that on your laptop or your computer, but for me, I like to have things right here with me. I like to be able to grab a folder, grab the documents and actually keep everything and put tabs into books and I have a system that will probably drive a lot of people crazy, but it works for me. And you've got to find something that works for you. Because you are going to need real life case studies, you are going to need research papers, and you are going to need to look at how your local policymakers are communicating with their public so that you can either mirror what they're saying or pick up on what they're saying. So it might be that you have a folder for press clippings, another folder for case studies, and so on and so forth. You're probably used to already organizing yourself and your folders and your research, but just in case you're not, if it's something that you need help with, then please do book into a 45-minute session with me. Like I said, they're free. Just book in. We can get you to where you need to go. And it is not a sales call. It's my way of helping to impact the lives of 1 million authors and help make their lives a lot easier so that we can get some real quality literature out there that transforms the world. So once you've identified who your policymakers are, it's time to do your background checks on them. How did they get to where they are? Did they study philosophy of politics? Did they study international communications? Did they study the law? How long have they been there? Who are their buddies? I was going to say who gives them rashwa. And those of you who are not aware of the word rashwa, that's the Arabic word for bribes. Not saying that all politicians are open to bribery, but you know, who is it that's given them favors or helped them get to where they are? It might be a mentor, it might be a coach, it might be that they had a job somewhere doing something and that person retired and they stepped into their place. And look at where they have made changes. Have they created changes in the law? Have they got a precedent in place? Have they got multiple ones? And how did they go about getting that? A lot of it will be public knowledge where you can find the precedents. The bits that aren't, then again, it's about going to the law schools and understanding. Again, go to your universities. They are a wealth of information. They will help you. You can pick up mentors, and maybe there's a short course in the university that you can. Oxford University do some fantastic courses in their continuing education school. There are lots of them. I mean, that's who I've been using, and there's been lots of people in different universities that I've called up for help, and they've been able to give that to me. And one of the things, once you've found out what the precedents are and who their associations are and their mentors, look at the words in which they use and how they use them. Because when you look at the law, Alfred Lord Tennyson said that the best lawyers are the manipulators of words. And it's like, how people use their words to win an argument? How do they use their words to incept ideas, doubts, confirmations, and confidence into people? Because once we understand this, then we can actually go, oh, okay. That was a very good play on words. And look at how, so for example, I remember once watching the TV. Well, I wasn't really watching it at my parents' house. And they just have the TV on. And I remember coming out of a book to go and get a cup of tea. Obviously, that's what I was doing. So predictable, but so unpredictable. And I remember putting my book down, and there was an advert on the TV or a news. No, it was a news article. I think it was ITV News, and they were talking about how. They were talking about an immigration issue of some kind or another. And then they went straight on to the parking and the parking violations. And then they interviewed a couple of people, and they're all ethnic people from different ethnic backgrounds. And I thought, what clever programming. You're talking about immigration, and like you'd got like what was then UKIP, and like and all of the anti-immigration people, right, followed by all the parking violations with people from different ethnic backgrounds. That is clever programming, because what that is doing is showing you an ulterior motive in their TV telling. And remember, television is called television for a reason, because it's telling you what you should be thinking and what the government want you to be thinking. And they are called programs for a reason. So again, look at how things are being presented. Look at how you are checking the facts that you're learning. Now, me, I'm an overthinking overachiever, and I don't mind admitting that. And I will find all the different facts out, and I go, right, okay, well, if this is what that party is putting out, and that's what this legal representative is putting out, and that's what the law actually is, where is that Venn diagram? Where is that juice in the middle? Where are those petals in the middle of that Venn diagram overlapping? That's where your juice is. That's where your power is. And have a look to see if there's any hypocrisy and or double standards, because it might be that they're saying one thing on one channel to get the voters or the viewers, and then, you know, maybe a couple of months later they're saying something else. And one of the things you could do is you could actually phone them up or email them or question them in any other way that you find suitable. I'm not saying go knock on their door in the middle of the night and wake them up in their pajamas, although that is one alternative. Might be quite interesting. You might get arrested for stalking, but there we go. You've got some publicity. But if there is a change in what they're saying, find out why there's been a change. Have they learned something new? Have they been introduced to something? Has there been a change in government narrative or a mainstream ideology that's come out? Is it because they've been burnt by somebody in their party or within their law firm? Find out. And it could be, just like me, these are all time stamped. So today, I think, is the 2nd of July, 2025, when you're watching this. Well, that I'm recording it, not when you're watching it. It might be. Thank you so much if it is. You're a day earlier and you're stepping through time. But look at the timestamp of things, because it might be that a new piece of science has come out or a new piece of research. And again, when you're looking at research, find out who's funding the research, because that will tell you a lot about why the person is writing what they're writing. Because if it's funded, so for example, if you're a marine biologist and you're being funded by a what do we call them, a gas company, or you're being funded by a wind farm company, and if someone has put some research out and they're being funded by that, of course they're going to make it favorable to the person who's funding them. And don't always look at the people who are directly funding them. Look at who that holding company is. These are all really, really necessary steps for you to take, because it finds out if you're writing a book and you want to create policy change and you're citing somebody whose research is funded by someone who's actually going against what it is that you want to change, and they're funded, or that company or that funding agent is owned by another company that really is the devil in sheep's clothing, then you need to know that, because otherwise all of those threads that you've got in your book might actually come undone. So find out what's missing, find out the missing information, the hidden information. And pay attention to the research and the way in which things are written. What terminology are they using? What verbiage are they putting out there? Maybe they're using certain phrasal verbs. Maybe they're using certain like media, what do they call them? Clickbait titles, or certain, I can't think of the word. Anyway, it was a phrase actually. But how is what they're putting out there impacting the general public? Is it something that is whipping them up into a frenzy? Is it something that's overcomplicated because the public are too stupid to know what these intellectuals really know? Because remember, if one of the things that we've seen across the world in the last few decades is the dumbing down of nations. Because when we dumb down the public, the government finds us easier to control. Being intelligent is actually an act of activism. It really is. Because the more intelligent you are, the less they can manipulate you. And when they put all these over complicated sentences, and like they did with COVID, it's far too complicated for the layperson to understand science, to be able to read all these papers, and they relied on people's laziness and stupidity or lack of knowledge or their fear to be able to manipulate them. And one of the things is, you're smarter than that. We're all smarter than that. We can all read, well, a lot of us can read, and those of us who can read have a duty of care to help encourage the future generations to read. Read to your kids at bedtime, parents and aunties and uncles and older brothers and siblings. And when you're reading, read the white papers, read the op-eds, practice look at what they're writing and how they're writing, and emulate that style. Obviously, keeping your own voice, but look at who is actually writing all of these papers and how are they writing them. Because this is going to be one of the clearest ways for you to go, well, if they're writing all these op-eds and reports, etc., in that style, and they're writing it, and these policymakers and lawmakers, the lords and ladies in the House of Commons, or in, the senators in, the White House and what have you, if they are paying attention to those op-eds and papers, that's the style you need to be writing in, obviously with your own source on it. But you've also got to make sure that you get this out into the public eye. And it's like I said to a gentleman who was going to deliver a presentation a couple of weeks ago. He was talking to me and he was going, and it's going to be this, and it's going to be this, and it was all very high level, critical thinking. Yeah, but where's humanity? Where are you talking about their parents or their children or their wife or husband? Where are you talking about how this impacts them as an individual, not just as stakeholders, not just as the funding agents, but them as individuals? Because the thing is, the way you are going to get both policymakers and the public on side is talk to them from a human perspective. Include all of the intelligence, include all the academia, include all the references and the citations, but include humanity. Appeal to their higher self. Now, there are some people who wouldn't know what a higher self was if it came up and bit them on the arse, but you've got to be able to do that. You've got to have that balance. And include a synopsis of who you are and your work and your expertise. Weave it in. Don't keep going on about how brilliant you are, but just make sure that you are able to include, well, this is what I believe, and this is why I believe it, and this is the referencing, and da da da. You've got to build that layering. It's like a cake. You've got to have the sponge cake on the bottom with the cream, then the strawberries, then the cake, and then the icing, and then the sprinkles, and a bit more fruit. Just saying, because we like cake. We do here, anyway. Again, how are you weaving the data, the narratives, and the strategy into content? I did just cover like your expertise, but looking at maybe including like quotations. And we see that when you're writing certain articles or blog posts, or you're writing online, you get an opportunity to do a highlight. How can you highlight that within your op-ed or your research paper or your letter? Who are you sending letters to? How are you collating all of this information? What referencing and research are you using? Are you working with a university student for, I know, their end of year theses or their end of degree theses, where they can work on a real life project to be able to help you? I think I mentioned this at the beginning of this series or somewhere in the middle of last series, but use the people that are available that can actually be using your research that you can collaborate with. There's nothing better for a university student to actually work on a real life case study, because then they're getting the academia and the work experience. And we all know how a lot of university students fail to get a job because they haven't got the work experience. But equally so, this might be something you want to address. Why is it the government keep pitching for people to do apprenticeships where people get both the qualifications and the work experience, but because they don't get a degree, they don't get a job? Again, is that something that you want to tackle? Is that something that you want to actually expose for indeed.co.uk or LinkedIn, where they're using bots just to look for university degrees and actually dismissing everybody else on experience and apprenticeship or other accreditations and certifications? What is it that you're researching, and how is it going to be impacting everybody else? Because you've got to be able to put yourself into the role of everybody that your research on your book is being written about. So if you are writing about the education reform, Look at yourself from the point of view, look at your work from the point of view of the student, of the parent of that student, as the teacher, the head of year, maybe the head of faculty, maybe the head of the dean, and maybe like a school governor, or you know, you need to position yourself into everybody's place so that you can see it from their perspective, and it's going to give your work a much stronger foundation, and you're also going to be able to pick up on lots of different ideas, and it's going to give you insights that you didn't know you needed. And you'll be able to when you do that, if I'm looking at a piece of research, let's say as a parent, I might then want to go, okay, well, what are the school governors being sent down? Like, who do I know that's a school governor? Let me go and talk to them. What's, school governor reports. It changes the way in which you research. This might actually be telling you how to suck eggs, some of you, but to some of you, this is really quite new. So again, everything that I'm saying, I'm hoping it's me landing with you where you're at, and you can build on that. And again, when you look at how you are writing and addressing all of these different issues, I've said it before, mind map it. Get your big, I was going to say butcher sheets of paper. I have lots of pieces of paper here. They are for wrapping plates, etc. But I shall be keeping quite a bit for my scribbles on the wall. But they're not going to be scribbles, are they? They're mind maps. It's very strategic research strategy. But again, when you're doing that, go to sleep, mind map at night, go to sleep, ask the questions before you go to sleep, and allow your subconscious to work and give you the answers that you need in the morning. Always ask your subconscious what's next. Who has got your research? Who are your advocates? Who are your mentors? When you ask your subconsciousness at night before you go to bed, it's almost like it's not almost like it is like the quantum realm gets to work. Your subconscious connects to that wider. I know this is a bit woo-woo for some of you, but I don't care really. Your ancestors and your angels and all of those, all of your inspirations, it's all starting through. Those of you who know about physics and the quantum realm know what I'm talking about. Those of you who've done, look up Dr. Joe Dispenza, look up anything in the spiritual world and the quantum realm and all of that. It's fascinating. There is magic in the chaos, ladies and gentlemen, magic in the chaos. And again, look at the points of view, use that actually. It might be that you have someone who's firmly in the 5D world and they're not connecting with people in the 3D world. And then you might actually have these light sources and your totem animals, and looking at the teachings of the indigenous and native communities and stepping into the 7D world. Now, to some of you, what the hell is Dawn talking about? Go look it up. It's magic. It's not to discredit me, because, I know what I'm talking about a lot of the time. When I don't, I go and research. But again, it taps into your gaps in your knowledge and your point of view. Where are you looking at this research from? How are you writing this book? How is it going to get you seen? And how are you calling on the different realms of power that can help you achieve what it is that you're looking to achieve? Manifestation, people, manifestation. Eckhart Tolle, another one. There's quite a few that know what we're talking about. Even Dr. Gabor Mate touches on it every now and then. For those, he's a bit more mainstream. So step 5, this is where we get into the intricacies. Because when you're looking at changing the law, I've said before, you need to look at the sections and the clauses and the additions and the amendments and all of the other different terminologies. The most common ones are clauses and section, though. And then look at the different elements of law that come into play with the subject that you're talking about or that you're writing about. Because you will find that there are some laws that you are researching and wanting to change, and that conflicts with, say, your human rights law, housing law. It might be, there might be criminology in it. And, when you've got those 3 laws working together, or it might be human rights law, it might be family and criminal. It could be environmental law with housing law, and could be finance, like looking at fraud, looking at all of these different things. Is it corporate law that is infringing on criminal law as well as family law? If you've got multiple laws, you need to actually look at the different sections. Like I said, it's going to take you time to get through this. But if you're going to do it and you're going to write a book about creating policy change, you need to have all your facts in place. Absolutely. And you need to cross-reference everything. And as well, as much as possible, find a lawyer that is interested in what it is that you're doing. Ask them to mentor you. Ask them if you can come and do some, sit on, if they've got any lectures coming up on the various subjects that you're writing about. Go to universities. Have they got lectures, like public lectures, that you can attend? A lot of universities do free public lectures, and so as does your local library. Your local library is a wealth of information, and it's so underused. Those librarians, they are worth their weight in gold. Maybe I should have been a librarian. Who knows? But anyway, find out where the conflicts in laws are, and look at the loopholes that are allowing the criminality or the negligence or the fraudulent behaviors to continue. Where can you pull out something of one particular law that overrides the other law? And remember, if you've got somebody who practices family law, they might know about criminal law, but they will not be able to represent you in a criminal law. They'll only be able to represent you in a family law unless at some point they have practiced criminal law, but then they're going to have to update their local. I think it's like that. Depends on which country you're in. They have certain permissions that they have to renew every now and then. I think it's every 3 years, and on average it's about every 3 years that they have to renew, or some areas of law they don't have to be done. I think it's for 5 years, but you'd have to check in your local region, in your country, and also the aspect of law that you're looking at, and look at what these conflicts are creating. Because if you cannot prosecute somebody or create a change in the law because of an existing law that was written maybe 30 years ago, maybe it's the law 30 years ago that you need to update and change to bring about the change you need. Like I said, it's a big, lengthy process. So if you're going into this, you need to be ready, because I guarantee you that once you actually get to the point of going public with this, and you've done the research well, and you've got a strong case, this could blow up nationally and internationally. You do not know what kind of hornet's nest you're going to be smashing. The cost of implicating this are huge, but it's understanding which costs, and we'll come on to cost in a second. What is this going to cost you to not do it, as well as what's it going to cost you to do it? And what are you investing? So the cost implications of changing the law, I think that's what, yeah. So now I have quite a different view on cost, investment, and debt. For me, a cost is it's costing me my sleep, it's costing me my health, it's costing me access to my children or my dog, or it's costing me access to, fresh fruit and vegetables. It's costing me my sanity a lot of the time. What is it costing you? And what is it you're investing? Because if you're willing to invest the time and effort into this, then you're investing in the future. You're investing in a huge career change, or a brand expansion of what you've already been going through, or what you've already been doing. You're investing in a whole new world for so many other people. There are some incredible, incredible people out there, such as Noa al-Sadawi, incredible Egyptian woman who wrote and was an activist against female genital mutilation in Egypt, and education for young girls. Now, this woman created a legacy. She was imprisoned several times, But by her being imprisoned, she became much more well known, and her work became well known. Her books became her research. Now, I'm not saying write a book and go and get arrested, although that's sometimes the best way of doing it. I wouldn't condone it. I've been arrested. I've been put in a police cell, and I won, and then went on to become the number third book on Goodreads for parenting and ambition, as well as, I sold my story, and it was really, really great. And the next thing is, when you invest all of that time and that cost, there is really no debt, because the debt that you have, again, relates to the costs. You have a debt of gratitude. You have a debt of, when you have a debt of gratitude, then I've just completely confused myself there. You're indebted to those people who helped you, because that by them helping you, it saved you on your cost of sleep or sleepless nights or stress or anxiety of not knowing. It's better to have a debt of gratitude to others than it is to not be grateful for than doing this alone. It's not a journey that you want to do alone. You need to have a team behind you, and if you do need somebody to help you research and check your writings and help you with the law, then please do get in touch with either me, and I'll see how I can help you, or get in touch with, like I said, your local university and law firms. Because the thing is, it's like at the moment, some of it, and another way to use debt, and it's why I got a bit confused, because I was thinking about the cultural changes and evolution, the next bit. Because the thing is, it's like, if we are wanting to change something culturally, we're not just talking about the nation culture. We're looking at the generational culture, or we're looking at an ethnic culture, music culture. We can be looking at the micro cultures within an overall reaching nation. And if there is if you have gone down the route and you're doing this change and creating these new legal precedences and making all of these policy reforms, the way in which you evolve as a person, it just becomes you become so much richer that you might have to invest a lot. It might cost you a lot. But there is no debt to education. Even if you have to pay for your education, that's not a debt, that's not a cost, that's an investment. And the impact that you're making and bringing communities together and improving the mental health and well-being and the safety and security of others, that's just... I get blown away by some of the feedback I get from my books, because one of the things, I never set out to become, an international bestseller. I never set out to win these accolades that I've won or I've been nominated for. I set out to change the world one reader at a time by sharing the knowledge I was learning to help other people, because I do truly believe that literature can save the world. And it's such an honor and a privilege when I get feedback from my readers and how I've either helped save their marriage, I've helped save the relationship between them and their children, or I've motivated them because they have no longer got a loss of self. They have confidence and courage, and they have the knowledge they needed to take those next steps. And that is so much more powerful. And when you're writing these books, I want you to really understand that impact on the community cohesion, and how these laws and these policies that we're governed by, they create separation. They divide us. And that's the thing, because once it's a great British Empire, divide and conquer. Once we are divided, which is why diversity doesn't work, because we're looking at all the differences and why we're so different, instead of coming together and being cohesive, instead of being a community, communicating and cooperating. You know, when we look at that, and we look at the news narratives and we go, why are they saying all that? We get on to get well, and you know, we want to work together as human beings. That's how we're hardwired. And it's only when we look at these news narratives and these laws and reforms that are actually dividing us. And it's our job and it's our duty as thinking people to actually address that, and address it at your local community gatherings and the political hustings, and get involved in local think tanks, get involved with your local council if you wish to. Now, I know there's not a lot of political parties out there worthy of our name. I mean, good heavens, you know, the Monster Raving Loony Party, for those of you who have a certain age in Britain. But again, look at what you can do. The other great thing to do when you've actually written all this, you're bringing all your research together, is don't just get professionals and peers to read it, but get your friends to review it, because they're all going to give you different bits of feedback. Now, I wouldn't normally, I would not advise that you get the final draft reviewed by friends and peers until it's published, because you could go into analysis paralysis. You could be there editing your book forever and a day. But what you're looking for is, do they understand the terminology? Do they understand the jargon? Is it overcomplicated? If you've got friends in different nations, find out if the people in Britain understand it in the American English and vice versa. What about the acronyms that are used? Do people know them? Have you put footnotes, or have you put them as end notes? Have people got to flick to the end to find out, or are they just going to glance down at the bottom of the page? I'm someone who prefers footnotes rather than end notes, but I understand why people use them. And you could actually, if you're going to be citing research, actually include the citations and the references as end notes. That would help you build up your bibliography and your indexing. Does what you've written leave people feeling didn't really connect with that? Because this is the thing, the policy changing, you've got to hit people in the heart. You've really got, the landmark educator said, you've got to touch, move, and inspire people. And the amount of times I've heard my friend Marsha say that. It's if you don't know who Marsha Martin is, she was one of the ladies who started the Landmark Forum, Landmark Education, many years ago. And you know, you've really got to get these changes happen. You've really got to connect with people on a very personal level, as well as that legal solution driven. Because if you're not including solutions and you're not actually showing the budget and the financial gains, it's not really going to get very far, because law and policy is cold, it's commercial, and it doesn't care, really does not care who is right and wrong. It's all about who's got the best argument. Unless you've got the most evidence, and it's damning evidence, it can still be dismissed. It can still be dismissed. And that is probably one of the hardest things that you are going to come up against. Now, like I said, Alfred Lord Tennyson, fabulous gentleman in many ways, actually said that the best lawyers are well, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, the best lawyers are the ones that manipulate the language. And that is what it's all about when it comes down to it, in the House of Lords, in the House of Commons, in the Senate, in any government building, in the UN. It all comes down to who is arguing the best case. Now, I was just about to say a cheeky thing, because I was married to an Arab for a long time. I got to learn how to debate and argue. And we all ended up giggling and laughing. Now, I say I was married. We are divorced, but that's got nothing to do with the arguing. But again, surround yourself with people who love to debate, love to have conversations, proper deep conversations. I call it mental gymnastics. Find friends who love mental gymnastics, where you can actually throw out different ideas and theories, and you know, go deep down that rabbit hole. that when you are doing this, please remember that this is not a short-term thing. This is the long game. This kind of writing, this is not a one and done, write it with AI and be done with it and get an international bestseller and holy moly, all your vanity metrics keep dropping it. This is long game stuff. So if you're going into this, remember you're going into it for a long time. Okay, so that is the end of it. But and the other thing is just believe in yourself. If you believe that policy change needs to happen, it needs to happen. Okay. And like I said, I'm here to help you. I need to go. I'm going to go back to this one here. And for those of you who wish to book a session with me, got my fancy one, my new one, the off strategy session. It is the api.leadconnector.hq.com/widget/booking/author strategy session, each with a hyphen in there, but I'm not going to expect you to remember that. My fabulous assistant, Tai, she's going to put the links in the comments below. So if you would like to book a time with me, my earliest one is next week on the 7th of July. I do have quite a few. It's a Monday. I like to do these on a Monday. There's nothing available on the Tuesday, and I think on the Wednesday, yeah, there's only going to be a couple because I do my author coaching on a Wednesday afternoon. Fridays are a no-go. So your best days to get me on Monday and Tuesday and possibly Thursday. I don't know what's happening on the third. There's only one on a Thursday. So make sure that you book in if you need any kind of help whatsoever. I'm here to help. Like I said, 1 million authors is my goal. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel or shared it with other people that are thinking about writing a book, then make sure you do, please. And also, if you want to know a little bit more about me and why I became an author coach rather than just a writing coach and a book coach, because those two elements are included in my author coaching, as well as all the leadership coaching that I've done over the years and business mentoring, then go to my website, find out a bit more about me. Any questions you've got, go listen to some of the podcasts. Just type my name into Google, you'll find it apparently many, many times. On this page, you can see the 7-week author course. You can just quickly go to that. And now also big shout out to Nath Bry, we've just put his book on pre-order, Slave Alone. If you have not yet read the D Mark II series, oh my God, you need to get this series. Book 1, 2, and 3 are available. 1 and 2 are out in paperback as well. Slave Alone at this point on this day, on the 2nd of July 2025, it's still out on pre-order for the ebook, with the paperback going live on the 11th. So we've got 9 days until that happens. And if you've got any other questions that you want, you can go to Pick My Brain. On here, you will find lots of different questions about how to do your how to get published, how many books do you need to sell. They're all there. I add to them regularly so that there'll be different things on there. But if I have not yet answered your questions, do send them through to me. If there's a subject you'd like me to cover in these weekly moments, do let me know and I will make sure that I create something for you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it for today. I am going to get an early night after my swim training. I've got some study to do and then a swim training and then an early night because I'm off to London nice and early. So I will see you, those of you who join me in the discussions after these events next week for week 13, beyond the publishing date. I don't know what title we've given it, but it will be covering what happens after you've published. So thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate you. And like I said, share, sign up, book a call. Let me know how I can help you and enjoy writing. It really is a thrill once you actually get into the nuts and crannies of everything. So take care. Much blessings. Bye-bye.